Okay, Dhamma friends, we have come to the next session of this Mindfulness for Young Adult session. That is Dhamma sermon related to KhaggaVisana Sutta. And as probably you can remember, KhaggaVisana Sutta is available in Sutta Nipata. Sutta Nipata is one of the foremost books available in the Sutta Pitaka. And particularly there are many popular discourses like Mangala Sutta, Haraniya Metta Sutta, Ratana Sutta. Those all are actually available in the Sutta Nipata. And similarly, Rhinoceros Horn Sutta or KhaggaVisana Sutta is also available in Sutta Nipata. So the theme of this sutta is mainly certain utterances given by Pacceka Buddhas. As we all can remember, there are 3 levels of enlightenment, and the Samma Sambuddha is the fully enlightened person who self-enlightened as well as established Sangha, Sasana, and there are many thousands, millions get enlightened because of his preaching capacity and his establishment of the Sangha ordination. And then the next level is the Pacceka Buddha. We can sometimes call him as a private Buddha, where he too self-enlightened, but he doesn't establish a Sangha ordination. Rather, he maintained fair amount of seclusion. And so that is in a way some difference is there. On the other hand, there are the 3rd level, that is the Shravaka Buddha. So they are actually disciples of the Samma Sambuddha, and they actually have different skills. And some are capable of preaching the Dhamma, which Buddha has already taught to some extent, and some others have other skills. So likewise, those variations are there. And like in this Buddha Sasana, Gautama Buddha is the Samma Sambuddha, Sariputta, Moggallana, and they are the chief disciples. So likewise, coming from that lineage, so many monks are there till today. Now, likewise, in this dispensation of the Buddha, now at one occasion, Buddha is talking or preaching about these Pacceka Buddhas. So he is mentioning that different incidents have happened to various people before a Samma Sambuddha actually arisen in the world, and that those reasons, those incidents have caused to make them enlightened. But they remain secluded, they didn't go forward to teach much and to establish a Sangha. So they are Pacceka Buddhas. Now we actually have went through a couple of verses. Actually, we already have covered around 18 verses. And altogether, this sutta has 41 verses. All are attributed to Pacceka Buddhas. And there is a recurring term available in this sutta, that is Eko Chare KhaggaVisana Kappu. Just live like a rhinoceros horn, which indicates some stability and seclusion. Not mingling with so many people, not going with too much of association, but to have fair amount of seclusion, solitude practice. So that is very much highlighted in this sutta to fair amount. Now, today actually we can cover 52, actually starting from 35, actually very much like 18th verse today. And this also indicates some aspects of the practice. And before we come to the verse, we can talk about the story behind this. According to the commentary mentions that there was one king, and he was actually quite sensitive in a way, and therefore he has given a name who is sensitive to cold. And being a king, he is sensitive to cold, on the other hand to various climatic conditions. But anyway, he has gone forth. So he renunciated the lay life. He has renunciated the kingship or kingdom. And then he went forth. He went to the forest. And now he is a recluse. Now, while he was dwelling there, so there is no enough food. And again, there is no very good shelter. And therefore, he was suffering from cold. He was suffering from heat. And the shelter is not much comfortable. And there are no mosquito nets or any of mosquito repellents or any of these like we have today. And there are many mosquitoes because of that. And various different types of flies. So one indicates here as gad flies. So anyway, so these kind of different problems were there. And on top of that, there are many serpents, snakes. So since he is new to this situation, he couldn't bear this for a long time. And now he is having thoughts that there is a nearby village which is fairly comfortable. I can find easily a more comfortable situation there. And again, there is no any threat from various dangerous animals or serpents, snakes, etc. And there I can live more comfortably. So he got the thought to leave the forest and go to a village temple. But on another hand, he got another thought, a second thought. This is not the attitude of a monk. Monks have gone through all these difficulties. They should be able to bear all these difficulties. They should be able to endure all these difficulties. So if I am leaving this forest dwelling and going to a more suburb, going to a city, going to a more comfortable place, it is true that I can live more comfortably. There may be abundance of food. There may be many facilities. But then I may lose the seclusion. I may have to involve with various other activities pertaining to the lay life. There are many devotees and I have to fulfill their aspirations. Now he is reflecting. What are the disadvantages of this kind of a movement? Then he decided, no, I should not go. I should bear this all difficulties. I should endure all these obstacles. Now he is further staying at the forest. And after some time, again he got the same idea. Still he can't bear sometimes. Still there are serpents, still there are mosquitoes, gadflies, and can't sleep some days, and not enough food on certain days. Difficult life. Again he thought, I should go closer to the village or to the city so that I may have a comfortable life. I may get enough food. I may get a comfortable place to stay. I should go there. Similarly, he got a second thought. No, this is not the way of a good monk. Monks are very famous for their endurance. So they are enduring. So endurance is one of the key factors of this monkhood. And therefore I should not go. The second time also he denied that thought, he rejected that thought and he continued. For the third time also he got the same kind of thought to leave the forest after some time. Again he advised to himself, I should not go to the city, I should still stay at the forest because there are many benefits while being in the forest, even though the setting, the monastic setting is not that comfortable. I may receive less food, maybe not delicious food. Similarly, I may not get very good clothing. And there may be gadflies, mosquitoes, serpents, and sometimes it is very cold, sometimes it is quite heat. So many issues are there, but I should endure all these. So while he was doing this sort of a situation, enduring all these things, now almost 7 years have elapsed, but he was doing very good practice, continuing his practice very well. At the end of 7 years, it is mentioned in the commentary that he became a Pacceka Buddha. And after he became a Pacceka Buddha, he has made this utterance. Sitancha unhancha kudang pipasang vata tape dansa sirin sapecha sabbani petani abhisambhavitva eko chare KhaggaVisana kapu. Sitancha unhancha kudang pipasang. Sitang means the cold. Unhang means the heat. Kudang, that is the hunger. Pipasang is the thirst. Vata tape, so that means various different kinds of winds, and then heat, the hot sun. Dansa, so that is the gadflies. Sirin sape, so those are the serpents. So these are typical conditions available in a forest dwelling. There may be serpents, there may be gadflies, there may be mosquitoes, and sometimes not getting enough food, not getting enough drinks. And of course, probably may not have insurance, probably may not have a easy number to talk, may not have Wi-Fi connection, may not have a cell phone, smartphone, laptop like we have today. So all these situations are absent. So nowadays, and people, maybe monks, even asking all this. So even though they live in a forest, we need Wi-Fi today. Through Wi-Fi, I am conducting this session to you today with very good internet connection, using a laptop, using a recorder. But on the other hand, now the traditional setting of a forest dwelling is quite difficult. So they have to endure all these difficulties. There is no much communication. Have to face sometimes some hunger, thirst, mosquitoes, gadflies, and sometimes get sick, no one to look after. So it's a difficult situation. Sabbani petani abhisambhavitva, having patiently endured all this. Now, one important factor is indicated here, that is the endurance. So all these difficulties, if we are able to endure, so that gives a lot of strength to the mind. But it doesn't mean that we always have to go to the most difficult area, most dangerous forest purposely. So that is going to an extreme. Buddha completely denied that. If you refer Sabbasava Sutta, there is a parivajjana pahatabba. So there Buddha mentioned, if you know very well, there is a forest, there are dangerous animals there, and you may not get enough food, and there may be thieves there, then don't go there. So basically, Buddha didn't ask us to invite troubles. So when one is selecting a forest dwelling, so one has to consider there is some amount of food. It may not be the best food. I have a close by village. From some amount of walking, I can reach there. Maybe 1 hour walking, I can reach there. I may get some amount of food from the villagers. So there is some access available to the village. And similarly, there may not be available very dangerous animals, maybe tigers, lions, bears. So likewise, and Buddha mentioned, it is not that you are expected to torture yourself. You are not expected to go through any kind of self-mortification. So that is an extreme that Buddha has rejected. On the other hand, it doesn't mean that you always have to live with the people being in the city. Maybe establish on a, say, housing scheme, living like a layman. So that is another extreme. So how to have kind of a balance? You may get some necessary stuff, basic needs are being satisfied, but still having some seclusion to continue one's practice. So this is something that we have to recognize and we have to maintain, because otherwise if we go to any of these extremes, either for any kind of self-mortification, Atthakilamatanu yoga, or to the other side, that is the Kamasukhallikana yoga, indulgence in various sensual pleasures. So those two extremes, Buddha say, should not associate. So one has to find out what is the balance. So I have to get some seclusion, not involved with too many activities, not associating too many people. On the other hand, I should be able to get necessary food, clothing, shelter for the living to maintain this secluded life. So those are, in a way, certain matters that a monk has to consider. Now, on the other hand, as a layperson, now if you are also practicing, probably you may have already some kind of a job. Assume that this job may not be the best job. It doesn't give you a very good remuneration. Suppose it may give you some enough freedom to practice. You don't have to work around the clock, and you have some amount of remuneration. This is enough. You can satisfy with your spouse. But importantly, it has given you some opportunity to practice for some spiritual development. Are you ready to leave this job and find a better one, which has a lot of responsibilities, and you have to change the existing place and involve with so many activities, and you have to work many hours, and you don't have enough time. So which one are you going to select? So therefore, even though the theme is for monks, or the situation is for a forest-dwelling monk, but we can get some lesson to lay life as well. So if we are also aiming some kind of understanding through the Dhamma, and you want to lead a spiritual life, and you have already given some importance to it, and again already involved with development of the mind, mindfulness, wisdom. So that shows, so there is a kind of an inclination in you towards this kind of a practice. And nowadays, sometimes the monks may be dwelling in the city, or maybe dwelling in the village, or maybe dwelling in the forest, also have to involve with some amount of activities, maybe the monastery activities, maybe various responsibilities, maybe various duties. So they also have to consider, am I doing it properly? Am I involved too much? Do I have enough time for my own practice? So that has to be considered. And Buddha mentioned one special quality of a noble monk, of a noble person. So it is valid from Sotapanna, Sakadagami, Anagami. So they are considered as the nobles, sacred training. And he said in the Kosambhiya Sutta of Majjhima Nikaya, Buddha mentioned that particular monk may be involved with fair amount of activities, maybe bearing some amount of responsibilities. Due to that, he may not get enough time for his own practice. But if he is really a noble, whenever he get a chance, he immediately try to strengthen himself. He don't continuously forget his welfare. He don't continuously involve with various external activities. Rather, time to time, he look after himself. He reflects about his own practice. And therefore, even though he is involved with some amount of responsibilities, activities, engagements, duties, he never forgets about his own practice. So likewise, Buddha has emphasized one's own practice. Because till one become an arahant, so there is some amount of practice is involved. So we have to continue our practice irrespective of various responsibilities that we involve with and irrespective of various conditions that we have to bear with. So practice has to go in line. And on the other hand, the people or the practitioners should be skillful enough to make use of various opportunities to the benefit of their practice. So how to use a particular opportunity for the benefit of their practice. So that is one of the challenging things. Suppose you have to talk with the person. Maybe that particular person is not that respectful towards the practice. Maybe not that respectful towards your opinions. And assume that you are given that duty to talk with him, to have a kind of a discussion with him, to coordinate with him. So you are assigned that task. So am I able to use that opportunity to develop my spiritual qualities? Is it possible? Or am I going to completely be away from that challenge? So that is where we have to use our own practice. So one attribute of the practice is to test ourselves. So we are putting, it is not that purposely we are putting into problems, but once we understood, okay, there is an opportunity, a reason, so it is already assigned to me. It is not that I went there and requested that, rather it was assigned to me. Now, is it possible to make use of this opportunity for the betterment or for the improvement of my practice? So while engaged with the activity, so we can look at our mind. We can observe our mind, how the mind is reacting in this particular situation. Say someone is now discussing with you and time to time you get upset. You get feeling resistant or you feel uncomfortable while discussing. So rather than furthering that uncomfortable feeling or rather than strengthening that uncomfortable feeling, promoting that uncomfortable feeling, is it possible to look at this uncomfortable feeling as an uncomfortable feeling or painful feeling? So it is merely a painful feeling. Only difference is it is not happening on the cushion. So if you are practicing Vedananupassana, probably you already have done that. So your body is going through some painful feelings and you are bearing it, enduring it, and you are observing its nature. The difference here, you are not on the cushion, you are now talking with a person. Due to the conversation, now there is an uncomfortable feeling. Now can't we apply that same practice scenario here? Meditation on the cushion. So this is where we have to bring our practice to our daily activities and to all activities as much as possible. So we are learning, we are practicing while being alone from the very best conditions. But what we have learned, what we have gathered, should be able to apply on all the other setup that we go through in the daily life. So if we can do it successfully, then we never sort of reject any challenges which come on our way. So therefore, more and more practitioners become capable of handling challenges, bearing difficult situations, enduring difficult situations. So life conditions are always changing. It never be always going with the positive direction. Rather, continuously they go up and down. So we should have an attitude, to bear all, endure everything. Actually, I can remember one very interesting statement made by Venerable Achan Cha, and he mentions, actually I wrote it on a piece of paper and kept it with me for many years, and it is remembering, and he is emphasizing. Statement goes like this: of all the qualities we develop in our lives, patient endurance is the most important. That is the statement. That is the kind of advice that we can remember every time. Actually, Buddha also has mentioned Khanti Paramang Tapotidikha. This Khanti, patience, is the supreme endurance. So if we don't have patience, if we are too much impatient, we can't wait, always expecting quick results, it is very difficult to continue the practice. Because always we feel like frustrated. I am practicing, I did it today, I did it yesterday, but still I am not yet a Sotapan. Always asking, not yet an Arahant, always asking. But on the other hand, the proper attitude, the correct attitude one has to have is that Buddha has mentioned it. Now I also have understood it to as much as possible. And this is the task at hand. So I am doing it. Like daily activities I am involved with. In the morning I get up, wash my face, have my breakfast, go to work, have the lunch. So likewise, there are some daily activities I routinely involved with. Similarly, meditation, mindfulness development has become a routine activity of your life. Then you don't consider it as a kind of a burden. You don't consider it as always should give tangible results. Rather, you maintain it as a part of your life, one important component of your life. And as you continue with such attitude, so with time, not immediately, with time, it may produce tangible results. So if you are impatient, always asking results, quick results, and don't have much of endurance, patience, then it is very unlikely that we can get good results. Because the mind development is utterly slow. The development of mindfulness is utterly slow. And we getting tangible results will happen very slowly. So we have to have that patient endurance. We have to have patience. Otherwise, it's very difficult. So we may have to go through difficulties. We have to overcome various obstacles. We have to overcome various doubts coming from our own mind. And we should find out different ways and means to overcome all these difficulties. And that itself has become the practice. So all these obstacles are not apart from the practice. They are not outside of the practice. They are part of the practice. So that is why Buddha mentioned, Puttassa loka dhammehi chittang yassa na kampati. Asokang virajang khemang etam mangalamuttamang. So when all these ups and downs in the world, vicissitudes of the world come on your way, Puttassa loka dhammehi chittang yassa na kampati. So one is able to maintain a stable mind. When you are getting the positive aspects, you are not elated. Similarly, when you are going through some negative sides, difficult sides, you are not lamenting, you are not depressed, but you are able to maintain some stability of the mind, equilibrium of the mind. So that Buddha mentioned is a mangala, it's a noble, it's a worthy aspect, worthy skill that one has to have. So therefore, this development of the mindfulness definitely will involve with various difficulties, various obstacles, and going through them only we can have very strong or stable mind. So if we are not getting any of those difficulties, those challenges, and we are trying to skip all these challenges, then that doesn't show much of maturity in ourselves. So a person who is fairly mature has to go through all this. He has gone through all these things. And it doesn't mean that he never come across any difficulties. He may also go through various difficulties, but he's patiently enduring. Having patiently endured all these, one should live alone like a rhinoceros horn. So this is the utterance made by this Pacceka Buddha. And with that, I like to conclude today's Dhamma sermon. Now I like to open the question and answer session.
I'm sorry, Bhante. Currently, there are 5 questions. Question number 1, general question. Dear Bhante, if this is a silly question, please ignore. I'm experiencing, I'll just read that. I am experiencing meaning noticing and seeing chances where my ashrava can operate. I know I have them. It's sort of unbelievable thoughts that arise, irrelevant to current life. Yet I could see I'm operating based on Panchasila and thinking according to it taught as a child. Yet deep within me, I also see a reptilian mind as well. I believe my practice and learning are stronger, so reptilian mind cannot take over. When those thoughts come, I shed them away. Sometimes I hit myself. I feel on these more than a minute. My question is, I want to completely get rid of ashrava. Where are these stored? Meaning, if we are not a constant being and we exist from moment to moment, where are these ashrava hidden? Bhante, I want to incorporate a behavior that will remove ashrava completely. Your help and advice is appreciated. Much merit with metta. That's the end of the question.
Yeah, interesting question. So you so you need a quick enlightenment, don't you? So that's what I mean. Buddha mentioned such is difficult to have. On the other hand, there are 7 ongoing practices are explained in the Sabbasava Sutta. So just to give how many questions we have today, Chatu?
We only have 5 questions. Right.
5 questions, okay, yeah. So in the Sabbasava Sutta is one sutta comprehensively touching this point, how to overcome asavas, how to overcome influxes. So in many different angles, actually Buddha has answered. It is not a single approach. So multi-approach answer is given. One aspect is that you have to have your proper vision, samadhi. So you should know what is correct, what is wrong, and again what to think and what should not think. So likewise, that reflective aspect, dasana pahatabba, is one key factor. So you should have yoniso manasikara, the proper thinking, correct thinking. So you should involve with correct thinking and should not involve with wrong thinking. So that is one aspect. And then Buddha mentioned samvara pahatabba. So you have to maintain some amount of restraint, should not misuse your faculties, should not misuse your eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, mind. Misusing in the sense, if we are using your eyes to watch something, and if you find that because of this watching, say you are watching a movie, you didn't have much of a lust before the watching of the movie, but at the end of the movie or while you are watching the movie, you start to burn with lust. So then we should not associate such kind of a situation. So that is where we have to have some restraint in our faculties. So having these faculties does not guarantee that we are using them properly. So we have to be somewhat selective in how to use them. So that is where Buddha mentioned about samvara pahatabba. And today we touch another one, that is the parivajjana pahatabba. So if you know that there are certain difficulties, there are certain dangerous places, I should not go there because those are risky. I might get fallen into a hell, I might fallen into a trouble, I might encounter any kind of an accident. So it is not necessary to go there. So like in a lockdown situation, say if you know that the conditions are bad, if I go out, I may also get contracted. So I'm now avoiding myself going out, exposing to the other things. So likewise, Parivajjana Pahatabba is one aspect, is that we are protecting ourselves. Similarly, there may be some wrong places, maybe say nightclubs, maybe say various say bad people, wrong people, prostitutes, etc. So should not associate. So that is the Parivajjana Pahatabba. So Buddha mentioned, if you know very well, so those places, those people, those situations are quite detrimental to your practice, don't go there. Don't associate them. So that is the third approach that Buddha mentioned. And then Buddha mentioned Vinodana Pahatabba, where while you are observing your mind, so you do some Chittanupassana, and you feel, okay, there are some lustful thoughts arising, there are some resentment arising, there are some aversion arising, there are some jealousy arising. So don't keep them in the mind. So just try to let them go. So it depends on your practice, and you may use various ways and means to overcome those situations. So now you are trying to maintain a fairly pure mind. You are not strengthening defilements, you are not strengthening unwholesome qualities. So that is Vinodana Pahatabba. And when you are using various requisites, say you have a very good car. So while you are using this car, are you feeling conceited? Are you using it just to show off? Are you always comparing yourself with the others? I am the person only having this best car. Others don't have it. Others are quite poor. I am the best. So are you using your requisites to show off? Are you using your requisites to highlight yourself and to condemn others, look down others? So that is a wrong way of using requisites. On the other hand, Buddha mentioned, when you are using requisites, understand the purpose. So know the purpose, why I am using it. I am eating just to remove hunger. I am wearing clothes to cover up the private parts. I am using a house to protect myself and to my family members. And I am using various medicine and various other requisites to maintain this body. So likewise, so whatever the requisite that you are using, if we properly reflect and understand their usage, proper usage, then Buddha mentioned that using those requisites may not develop asava. Instead, the possibility of developing asava may reduce. So you are reflecting, you know the purpose, why I am using it. And you are not looking down the other people, and you are not sort of showing off yourself. But you are using any requisites knowing their purpose. That is called, can't remember the name. So that is one aspect, using the requisites properly. Patisankayoniso. And then there's another one. Say, you have to develop certain qualities. Currently, you have some amount of qualities, but those may not be enough. So you need to develop more qualities, more skills are needed to develop. So those qualities Buddha mentioned are the enlightenment factors directly Buddha mentioned here. So enlightenment factors not immediately one can develop, but before that one has to develop mindfulness, one has to develop concentration, one has to develop wisdom. So it's a kind of a systematically, one has to develop these positive qualities in the mind. So that is the Bhavana Pahatabba. So likewise, Buddha mentioned a full course or full different 7 types of approaches to overcome influxes. various different types of asavas available in the mind. So therefore, don't think that one can do it immediately. It may take definitely some time, and therefore have to have some patient endurance, and using them, applying all these different mechanisms, techniques, one should try to overcome different defilements or influxes. Yeah, we can go to the next section.
Question number 2 of 6. General question. Dear Bhante, would you please explain what are Sanvegas Vastu with Metta? Did that make sense?
Yes. Yeah, Sanvega Vastu, I can't remember how many, actually there is a number, be 5 or 6. So Sanvega Vastu is one thing that you getting sick, you going to die one day, and you getting old, and other one is that you have to work hard to earn money and earn living in order to buy for your food, and there is a possibility of, if in case you do something wrong, there's a possibility of going to a bad situation, bad destination, going to a hell realm. So thinking those situations and pondering about these say consequences is actually arousing urgency in the mind. So when you know that at the moment I am doing well, but there is no guarantee this body will remain healthy for a long time. I don't know. Similarly, I am doing very well right now, but soon I may become old. I can't maintain this say youthhood forever. Similarly, I'm doing well, but I don't know when this body going to die. So death is definitely going to happen. Similarly, so in order to maintain this life, I have to work hard. So this is the nature. So I have to earn money, I have to go to an office, I have to work in the paddy field, and different things are there. So this is also there. So likewise, Buddha mentioned to reflect these Samvega Vattu, the causes of arousing urgency. So when you are reflecting like this, you feel, so I should develop myself. I should develop some spiritual qualities, strengthening myself. I should work hard to involve in the practice. So these are called Samvega Vattu.
Question number 3 of 6. Mindful sitting. Dear Venerable Bhante, during the sitting, the main meditation object is silence, and time to time I do go to the breath. While doing this, I could see various thoughts coming and going far away. However, I chose the one type of it. To give an example, I see myself as a 3-year-old back in Sri Lanka. Panadure temple, the first day I observed Sil with my grandma. At this moment, I received so much love, and there was a sense of caring and belonging I experienced, and I do not have it now. After the sitting, before rising, I asked myself, why am I clinging or attached to that type of feeling? The answer I could find is that I have a liking for love, but not with everything and everyone, mostly in the past. As if I'm pulling pictures out of my pocket and embracing them when not meditating. I tried to dissect this using Panadure Chandaratana and tried seeing what comes back is only an image of past perceived at present, and craving occurs for that sensation. Bhante, is this the way to see through the craving?
Yeah. So, no harm. This is one way of, say, handling craving, because Panadure Sutta shows the 5 aggregates, and different aggregates are given very strong examples. And if you are able to look at what are the experiences that you are going through, according to different aspects, according to different brigades, and reflecting them as with their counterparts, with their similes, then definitely you are able to overcome whatever the craving available in the mind. So this is, therefore, in a way, we can say it is Dhammanupassana, where whenever you go through some craving, whenever you go through some experiences, you are able to dissect that experience into different components, different aggregates, and so that is basically helping you to overcome craving, to reduce craving, not to promote craving, but to do some Chittanupassana and Dhammanupassana. So therefore, no harm. Yes.
Question number 4 of 6. This is a general question. Dear Bhante, would you kindly be able to explain Visankhara Gattan Chittan in relation to Kaya Sankhara, Vachi Sankhara, and Mano Sankhara, please? Much merits with metta. That's the end of the question.
Yeah. So that basically, Visankhara Gata means that you are not promoting sankhara, you are not promoting, in gross form, we can say proliferation. So the mental proliferation is one aspect of the typical mundane mind, where whenever we do something through our body, so we get on to mental proliferation. Whenever we talk something through our speech, we are getting to mental proliferation. Whenever we start to think through the mind, we get into mental proliferation. So Visankharagata, one aspect in a more gross form, is to reduce this mental proliferation. And as you are coming more and more to the subtle levels, so that indicates, so you are doing less bodily, say, formations, less verbal formations, less mental formations. So slowly, so your mind calms down, your words calm down, your speech calm down, your body calms down. Say, for example, you start with, say, Anapanasati. So at that time, assume that at the beginning you use some sort of a Vachi Sankhara. You are doing some labeling. It is in-breath, this is out-breath, this is in-breath, this is out-breath. So you do some labeling. So this is also Vachi Sankhara. But as you continue, you have to drop Vachi Sankhara, because now you are developing, enhancing. Now no need of Vachi Sankhara. Now you stop Vachi Sankhara. Now you are having a very silent mind. The gross form of Vachi Sankhara is now discarded. Now, on the other hand, you feel some bodily formation, Kaya Sankhara, that is the breath, but all other activities are stopped. You are in a very still position. You are not using your body to do anything wrong. You are not going to harm animals. You are not doing any stealing, intoxications, or adultery, any of those wrong things. So basically, those gross form of bodily activities are also stopped. So you are cutting down all those bodily activities, cutting down the bodily formations as much as possible. What is available right now is just the breathing. So you are reducing Kaya Sankhara. Already the Vachi Sankhara has fairly reduced. Now you are not talking, you are not making any labeling, and ultimately mind become fairly quiet. Now what is available is the mental formations. So that may be different thoughts coming and going, popping up. Now you are addressing them as well. You do assume that Chittanupassana, you do Dhammanupassana, Kayanupassana, Vedananupassana. So that helps to even calm down mental formations. Now you are not promoting any Vedana feelings, rather you simply allow them to come and go. You are not holding any happy feelings. You are not rejecting any, say, painful feeling, but rather you allow them to come and go. Similarly, you are not holding any perceptions. So you allow them to come and go. So slowly, you are reducing various different types of feelings, different types of perceptions. So through the practice, likewise, our bodily formations, Kaya Sankhara, verbal formations, Vachi Sankhara, And then the mental formations, chitta sankhara, are reducing. And ultimately, even when your eyes are open, ears are open, say nose, tongue, body, mind are quite vigilant, and different objects, their corresponding objects are available. Forms, sounds, say smells, tastes, various tactile sensations, even thoughts, mental objects are available. Still, if you are able to maintain a calm mind, calm speech, there is no speech at all if possible, and you are not doing anything. I mean, basically maintaining a very still position amidst all those triggerings, all these external conditions. If you are able to maintain that sort of a situation, that indicates now your mind has become visankaragata. Those external triggers does not make any bodily formations, does not make any verbal formations, does not trigger any mental formations. Rather, formations have fairly calmed down. So that is how, I mean, through the practice, one may slowly reduce formations, and ultimately one may be able to experience this visankaragata chitta. Yeah.
Question number 5 of 6, mindful sitting. Dear Bhante, this is regarding the understanding of the refinement of the mind while in the sitting mindfulness practice. Bhante mentioned multiple times that when the meditation object, for example, the breath becomes subtle and diminishing, the mind also refines with that. Due to your excellent explanations from Anapanasati Sutta, I've understood a kind of pattern how the breath becomes subtle and vanishes during sitting. Most of the time I trace at least 10 or 12 stages of the breath before it completely vanishes. This was clear after nearly 2 years of practice under your guidance. Lately, when I do sitting practice, I observe that mind is getting distracted while the breath was refining, following the similar known pattern. I deliberately let the mind distract and stayed vigilant and mindful about the distraction. After several minutes of wandering mindfully, I observe the mind slowly comes back to the body and the breathing process. However, now the breathing process seems in a very refined state, not the one I left a few minutes before. I could immediately recognize this since I'm used to this transformation. It appears like when I mindfully stayed with the distraction, the breath refined independently. Or the interpretation I can give is based on your highlight that the mind refines with the increase of mindfulness, and when I returned back to the breath, I was looking at the breath with this heightened mindfulness. If the latter is correct, does that mean there are no independent processes, but they appear because you are looking and the observation is based on the refinedness of your mind? With metta, that's the end of the question.
Actually, Chatu, I didn't properly get the question. So what I got it like, so he's going through Anapanasati and the object become refined. Now he's trying to recognize another object. In essence, is it what he just mentioned?
I think what happens is the breath is getting refined or subtle, and then he jumps to thinking, and then when he comes back, the breath is even more refined. So I guess his question is, I'll read out the part. It appears like, well, I was mindfully stayed with the distraction, the breath has refined independently. Or the other interpretation I can give is based on your highlight, that the mind refines with the increase of mindfulness, and when I returned back to the breath, I was looking at the breath with this heightened mindfulness. So if the latter is correct, does this mean there are no independent processes, but they appear because you are looking and the observation is based on the refinedness of your mind? Does that make sense?
We can say so. Yeah, we can say so. There are no, different processes are always available. And why are we selecting this particular process? So that actually depends on our own likes and dislikes. So different processes are always available. To everyone, many different processes are available. But because of our own, likes and dislikes, because of our choice, we are choosing a particular process, and then we are trying to hold it, we are trying to crave it, we are trying to possess it. So on the other hand, one can say, through the practice, so we are not going to select any process. So processes are there, but now we are not going to select any process. So that is where what we call anisita, unassociated kind of a mind. So it doesn't indicate that processes are completely ceased. Processes are there, but mind has lost its interest. Mind has come to a position where it not further depending on those processes. Previously, mind involved with those processes, grasped those processes, clung to those processes, and even jump from process to process. But now, after understanding the repercussions, disadvantages of those different processes, now mind is not interested in going to those different processes. Yeah.
Is it okay if we go a little bit over time? There's one more question left, Bhante.
Yeah, fine.
Okay, it's a short one. Question number 6, general question. What is the best way or method in Buddhism to remove recurring negative thoughts? That's the end of the question.
Recurring negative thought, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, not just one method. There are many methods available. I mean, so it is not a single method. Assume that you are getting some negative thought again and again. So one approach is mindfulness. Say, instead of promoting that negative thought, why don't you try to advert your attention to something wholesome? So that is one approach. So you are trying to replace, in one sense, you are trying to replace, the negative thought with the positive thought, unwholesome thought with the wholesome thought. So that is one approach, replacement. Another approach is that you are not promoting that incoming unwholesome thought. So that is another approach. You recognize this as an unwholesome thought, and now you are trying to discard it. You are not promoting it. You are not giving any value to it, any importance to it. So that is another approach. Another thing is that you can look at the opposite. Say when you are getting unwholesome thought, so you are replacing it with a completely opposite thought. Say you are getting anger. Now you are trying to replace it with loving kindness. You are getting lust. You are trying to replace it with the loathsomeness. So likewise, you can replace it with the complete opposite. That's another approach. Say, on the other hand, you are developing the positive aspects of the mind. So instead of bothering too much about the negative aspects, now you are strengthening yourself, developing mindfulness, develop concentration, and time to time dwelling in a fair amount of, blissful states, happiness, pleasurable states of the mind. Those are not harmfully gained one, but rather skillfully gained one through your practice you are experiencing. So now you are able to recognize another domain of your mind. So you don't need to dwell in these negative thoughts, depressive thoughts, but there is a possibility of maintaining your attention into the positive sides. So that is another approach. And again, Buddha mentioned, if not any of these work, you can even use your strength in the sense, Buddha giving an example that like a powerful person suppressing a weak person. Similarly, try to remove this negative thought using some willpower. That is another approach. And again, one can say the mindfulness approach where you are developing mindfulness, say you are doing walking meditation, mindfulness on breathing. So while you are doing that, you are giving emphasis to some very wholesome or very subtle process. Because of you are strengthening that process, that negative process not getting enough strength from you, it starts to fade away. So likewise, there are many approaches, many techniques available in the suttas, available in the Dhamma, and you can use them depending on the situation. Yeah. And actually, even you can go to some mundane other things as well. Suppose you are talking to some good people, you are going to say some inspiring place and trying to overcome your negative situation of the mind, and you do some sort of discussion with a person who can understand your situation. So likewise, there are maybe different approaches available. Yeah.
That ends the questions for today, Bhante, and we've gone over time anyway. So I'd like to wind up the session, firstly by thanking Bhante for giving up valuable time to come here and explain these questions for us in a very nice manner, and also to pass on our merits, and also to the people working behind the scenes and those participating, seen or unseen. With that, I'd like to end the program. Thero Saranai.
Yeah, Thero Saranai.